The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rebecca with the Washington Food Industry Association. Thank you for joining our webinar today. As always, we leave everyone in listen-only mode until we get to the question portion. So please make sure that you're muted on your end. So when I start unmuting everyone, we don't get background noise. And if you have to leave the call to take another call, don't put us on hold. Just leave and then come back when you can. And if you have questions, you can enter them in the question panel if you're on your computer, or do the little hand raise button so we know to come to you when we start unmuting people, or just wait till the question portion, and when we unmute you, you can ask your question. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jan.
Good afternoon and welcome back for our weekly member webinar on COVID and all the great regulation that you guys are trying to keep up with, and we are too for you, but thanks for joining us. And I'll tell you this week, we have had so many questions come in from all over the state with the county by county regulations and the changing into phase 2. And Tammy Hutchrick, our vice president of the association, has put together a distinguished panel of people here. And Tammy and I decided we couldn't answer most of these questions. And so we have brought the experts to your fingertips. So today's your opportunity to ask your questions. If they can't answer your questions today, they'll get back to us, I'm sure. So I am going to turn this over to Tammy to introduce our guest and to kick the program off. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. And yeah, like Jan has told you, there's just been such a variety of questions as we move into the next phases and new requirements and everything. And so I have to graciously thank the panel that we have today, because literally some of them just agreed to join within the last 10 minutes to answer questions. So I have looked far and low to find everyone that can help us with this. So today on the phone, we have Pam Kant. She's an industrial hygienist for Labor and Industries. I have Sonia Charles. She's the Paid Family and Medical Leave Ombuds. And I have Lauren McCloy, who's the Senior Policy Advisor for Governor Inslee's office. So we're hoping with the variety that we have, we can answer most of your questions today. And Pam's going to start with an overview of some of the questions we had sent to her, and then I can follow up with some of the questions we have that our other panelists may be able to answer. So with that, thank you all very much. And Pam, I will let you start.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. So I'm Pam Kant, like that we've already been mentioned, and I am the Consultation Operations Manager for our Occupational Safety and Health team. And so I do say that as we go along and you guys have questions, you can ask me directly. We have a big team of consultants that are here to help employers. So just to, get that in there. I want to talk a little bit about the requirements. I'm going to go over some of this really quickly and then get to the questions that were sent to me. So as you guys are going forward, a lot of you have already done this in phase 1. You have to now have in your accident prevention program or your safety plans, you have to have a written program that's for COVID-19. And in that, you need to address educating your workers in a language they'll understand, how you're going to social distance, putting up barriers, and how, if that's not feasible, how you're going to keep people from being next to each other if you can. Providing PPE to your employees, and that's the goggles and the face masks and the gloves and the cloth face masks. Ensuring frequent hand washing, establishing a housekeeping, which I think everybody here has probably already done a lot of this. Screening your employees and the start of shift for the COVID-19 symptoms, and then having a supervisor on site to manage this safety plan. So with that being said, that's kind of in a nutshell. And if you've looked at the phase 2 retail, I believe you guys are in-store retail people, then you'll see that, you know, that's the points that I'm making there, and that's what you'd have to make your plan on. The next thing I wanted to say is, you know, a lot of industries, and we're talking to everybody, so they're afraid, or I can't say really afraid, they're really worried about how we're going to enforce this. And so what really I can tell you is that mostly it'll probably be what we call a phone fax, which means that, you know, if someone calls in a complaint about your establishment, we're likely to call you and ask you if you can fix it, and then send us the email and tell us how you fixed it. There may be reasons that we come on site, and if we come on site, then that would be a normal inspection, compliance inspection we would do for any employer, but related to COVID-19. So just so that you know, that's kind of, we really want you to be able to get in compliance and be able to do all these things without us, you know, really getting too involved in all your businesses. So then the last thing is that there's a bunch of questions we've been asked by a lot of employers. So I'm going to answer some of those and then get to the ones I think are more specific that you've sent me. So everybody's asked us who provides the PPE, and that is you, the employer, provides the PPE. The employee does not get the PPE themselves. You're required to give them the cloth face mask, the gloves, and provide the hand washing stations. All of that is on the employer to do. The other is, does it need to be a written program? Yes, it does. You need to write down what this new policy is for COVID-19, and that should be in your safety plan. And and so another question we've got a lot of is medical surveillance. How do I do that? And there's a lot of ways to do that. Hopefully figure it out one for yourselves. You can take the temperature. You know, the best one is if you can find the type of device that you can take a temperature from without touching the person. You can also do questionnaires if you can't find one of those. So you know, basically it's just trying to find out how your employees feel every day as they come in and get a sense of whether or not they're experiencing any kind of flu or cold symptoms. So with that being said, I'll say that I have 3 questions that I believe you guys have presented me. So I'm going to kind of go over those, and feel free to, you know, interrupt me if you need to clarify. So one of them is, can you use face shields versus the cloth face mask? And we've gotten this quite a bit too from everybody, and the answer is no. You have to use a cloth face mask. Now you can use any kind of material. You know, if you have an employee that's allergic to types of fabrics, I would say have that person, you know, experiment with other types of fabrics. If, you know, really there isn't any kind of cloth type of fabric they can put on their face, then I would use the paper mask. So the reusable paper mask, the surgical mask, those are as well, can be used as well. The face shield cannot be used in place of the cloth face mask. So the face shield doesn't really, it's not tight enough to capture aerosol, you know, the aerosolization of, you know, when you breathe and that type of thing of the COVID-19. It can't, and it also, you know, it's just not tight enough to do that. So the face shield would allow you, if you were to sneeze or cough, to have that, you know, whatever's in your body to be expelled onto other people. So you can't use it in place of. You can use a face shield, but you still would have to have some type of mask underneath. So if you wanted to do some kind of double protection, people could wear a cloth face mask or a surgical mask and wear the face shield on top of that. So then the other one, another big question that I got from your folks is that about reusable bags. And do you guys have to have, you're not allowed to have, you know, customers come in and use their own bags. So I look back at the recommendations we sent out, and we had kind of strongly worded that. And it was actually never a requirement. It's always been a suggestion. So sorry about that. It's a great suggestion, but it is only a suggestion or a recommendation. So you can have, you know, customers using their own bags at this point in time. You know, just make sure that you have, you know, a very accessible hand washing for employees as they go through their day. It wouldn't be different than how they're touching the boxes of the food and all that kind of thing. So just make sure they can hand wash as often as they need. But yes, you can go to having people use their own bags. So that recommendation, though it's strongly worded, we are updating the communication we put out about that, and it should be updated here within 2 weeks, and we'll change the wording in that educational outreach item. So, and then the last one, and I don't know if I can really answer this as well as everybody else on the phone, is what if an employee can't wear a mask and they have a doctor's note or they're deaf and they need to go, what is the recommendation? So this really isn't occupational safety and health from us, but we would say that, you would try to find alternate ways to have the person work before you're thinking about them laying them off. So some of the things you'd be thinking about is, can they work alone? Is there tasks that they can do that they can work alone? Is there ways to have them really be social distancing by 6 feet so that they're really never in somebody else's space? Is there barriers you can put up? And so employers might just have to get really creative about how they're going to keep an employee on that cannot wear a mask. So I think that's all the questions I had. And I know I went really fast. So do you guys have questions for me?
And Rebecca, do you want to open it up for questions to Pam, and then we'll let the other panelists have questions as well?
Yeah, and this is Jan, as she's doing that, I will say that the prior direction to us from Department of Health in, I don't know, I can't remember. Yeah, labor and industries too, was a face shield, but as an alternative to the cloth mask. So this is a change in policy, and the Department of Health is also revising their direction. So we've got some consistency in the process here. We don't have jobs that are isolated. In the grocery industry, we're all about people. That's what we do, is serve the public. So we don't have those isolated jobs, and we have had some situations where employees bring in a doctor's note and said that they cannot wear a mask because of a medical issue, may it be physical or mental. That's not a place for the staff or employers to go. So the question we posed to the Human Rights Commission and to our national organization on that tracks ADA is, what is the liability and how does the employer handle this under ADA? Because they have got a letter from their physician. So do you, Pam, do you have anything to add to that? Because the Human Rights Commission came back and said you have to make reasonable accommodations. And as I told Sharon over at the Human Rights Commission, the only reasonable accommodation that we've been provided by the state is an isolated job, which we don't have. So we're getting stuck in the midst of a lot of regulators and federal and state law, and we need clear direction and protection.
Yeah, so this is Pam. I would say, you're in a space where there's not a lot of answers, and so we in Division of Occupational Safety and Health, it isn't part of what we regulate, so it'd be hard for me to answer that. What I can say is that, you'd have to figure out, employers will have to figure out how they can reasonably accommodate, which I know it's not going to be simple. And so then it becomes, what do you lay off? But really, that's not stuff that we normally advise employers on. So unfortunately, I probably cannot give you an answer.
I wonder if the governor's office or the paid family, maybe you can answer on the paid family medical leave, if the medical leave is, if this situation is accommodated by the paid medical leave.
Well, so this is Lauren McCloy from the governor's office, and on the human rights issue and the issue of folks who have a health specific reason that prevents them from being able to wear a facial mask at work. The governor's guidance on the Safe Start order does include an exception for that. So hopefully that will be sufficient for employers who are looking for, you know, what the requirements are in the case of folks who are deaf of hard of hearing or have an underlying medical issue that prevents them from being able to wear a facial mask. So I'm happy to share that with you, Jan, so that you can share it with the participants.
Yeah, we did see for the deaf and hard of hearing and people that need to watch movement of the mouth, but we did not see an exception for an unknown medical problem that a doctor's note is presented for. So that would be great if we could get some clarity on that. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Jan, this is Don Stoltz. Could I ask a question pertaining to this?
You bet.
So at what point in time, we've all put up plexiglass barriers between the cashiers and the customers. At what point in trying to come up with this reasonable accommodation and things, at what point is that plexiglass barrier sufficient to where the cashier does not need to wear a cloth mask?
That's probably a question for Pam.
That's what I'm thinking. Pam, this would be something you guys would probably be enforcing, correct?
Right. Let me get you guys on this, and I'll do it within the day here. So right now, I haven't heard that we would, in place of the barriers, you didn't have to wear a mask. So right now, it's the barriers, and you're still wearing the mask. That's what I'm aware
Right. So I guess sort of the question is, if you're all wearing masks and everything, then I'm not sure what the purpose of the barrier is, and if the barrier is accomplishing separation of people, then why does that not replace the mask?
Right. I hear what you're asking.
Okay.
I will have to get back.
Okay. Thank you. That would solve a large degree our problem of the people that can't wear masks.
Can I chime in, please? Because I'm getting such high anxiety right now. My heart rate is literally 125. I'm one of those people who cannot wear the mask. Now, question is, automatically, that means I cannot work. I'm the safety manager for the company. Secondly, I just want to know what kind of studies have done to come up with this decision and to say that the face shield is less than a cloth mask, and we all know what the cloth mask is. We blow through it, everything goes through it. So who comes up with this? What kind of studies are done for this, for the people like myself who cannot do this? We can't breathe.
So we're using the CDC guidelines. That is basically what we're working off of. Whether or not there's studies, all this is so new, I wouldn't think we are going to find studies. So currently, the masks are the most protective, at least from you getting someone else sick. So the face shields, they would still allow when you cough that it would be able to go underneath the mask and get on other people. So that's kind of the idea of that. When people say they can't wear the mask, I usually tell them, you know, if you haven't tried, I would try the surgical masks. They are lighter and easier to breathe with. And if you can't wear a mask at all, yeah, I realize that we're in a situation where what do we do now? So some of that does have to do with the ADA and how are you going to accommodate somebody, which is really up to each employer. And it is something we'd all have to talk about and how we're going to resolve that.
It just saddens me that, you know, these stuffs come up and we have to follow them and there's nothing behind. It's just, well, let's do this. Let's try that. Let's work without the mask for the 3 weeks where the epidemic is the worst. And then 3 weeks after, we all have to wear the mask. It just, like I said, gives me anxiety right now. I have anxiety right now that I'm going to have to literally calm myself down, and I'm in my office by myself. So if I go into the public, can you imagine how is that going to be? And I'm standing in front of those people who are having these issues but don't have the voice.
So if I could ask, Sonia, did I pronounce it correctly? I'm sorry.
It's Sonia. Yeah, I was waiting for an opportunity to jump in. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because I am curious about the paid family or paid medical leave. So if you could help us with that.
Thanks. So I am at Sonia Charles, and I'm the paid family medical leave ombuds. Sort of a disclaimer, fair warning, I am a lawyer by training and expertise. So there's a little bit of a lawyer answer, but it's probably the best answer. So the question that was posed to me prior to the meeting was whether somebody who had a doctor's note that said that they couldn't wear a mask would qualify for paid family medical leave. So it's hard to give a definitive answer. The answer is probably not. To qualify for paid family medical leave, a healthcare professional has to certify that someone has a serious health condition. So the requirement to wear a mask isn't in itself a serious health condition or something caused by having to wear the mask, but it's possible that the underlying medical issue that the person has that makes it difficult for them to wear a mask could qualify them for paid family medical leave if a doctor certified or another healthcare professional certified that it was a serious health condition.
Well, that is great clarity because we've had that question many times, but the sad side of that is that it sounds like in some cases, the only option will be to lay off an employee that just refuses to wear a mask because of either medical condition or even without a doctor's note. So we have those cases out there. They're real. This is all real life stuff that our store owners are going through, and it's pretty sad. And I'm just going to strongly encourage government to be creative and help us come up with our best solutions, because there are great workers out there that are going to have to be laid off. And unemployment insurance, although right now with the extra $600 is pretty lucrative, when that drops off, it won't be. And we need good people in our stores serving the public. So,
Gene, if I could add one little thing to that too, and hopefully this message gets carried back to whether it's the governor's office or the health department or whoever. But if you're questioning the value of the face shield and whether it's not as good, well, if you really look around at the masks and you say, what kind of masks are people wearing, the variety out there, how they're wearing them, a handkerchief that, kind of the guy has a beard and so he's kind of got it over his mouth but not his nose, and all those kind of things. I just find it very difficult to believe that you can collectively look at the way all the masks are being worn and say that they are much more effective than a face shield. If you compare it to a perfectly worn surgical mask, I guess logically that makes sense, but that's not what happens with the mask. And I would just really encourage whoever is in the position to carry that message and see if you can modify the requirements a little bit just to allow the face shield.
thanks, Don. And Kim, could we go back to the reusable bags? Because I know a number of our stores are really excited to try to be able to allow their customers to bring those reusable bags in, and you're saying yes now that they are allowed. The direction previously from the Department of Health was we would have to require the customer to bag their own groceries if the store did allow reusable bags, but then we had the contrary direction from Illinois. Is it Illinois' position? Are we going to continue down the pathway the customer has to bag, or can the store employee begin begging the customers groceries in reusable bags. Pam, if you're talking, you're muted. Did we lose Pam, Rebecca?
Yes, it looks like we lost Pam,
Uh-oh.
which, yep.
Hopefully she'll try to come back here.
I think I'm back.
Oh, she's back.
Oh,
Oh, did you hear my question at all,
I
Pam?
did not. No, please
Okay.
repeat it.
It's regarding the reusable bags. I wanted to go back to that. So guidance earlier from Department of Health was we could do reusable bags as long as the customer bags, but then L&I came out with what we understood to be the prohibition. With your new guidance, will the customers still have to bag, or will the stores be allowed to bag groceries in reusable bags if they choose to?
I believe that is DOH allowing the guys to bag with the customers' bags?
Not to date. The customer is required to bag their own groceries to date.
I think we would say, actually, I don't know. I believe we're going to probably do the same thing as DOH. However, that is a new concept of what to do with the bagging. There's a few ideas about this. One would be that, I don't know the difference between, all the, when a cashier touches all the food that's been touched by everybody else, how would that be different than touching the customer's bags? So I will get back to you about that specific question. But what I would say is, regardless of what the answer is going to end up being, is that we just make sure that they can wash their hands. So even if they're having customers do the bagging, they still need to be washing their hands because they're still touching everything else. So I don't know specifically if we would change whether or not the customer still has to do their own bagging, but I will let you know.
That would be terrific. Yeah, if we could get good clarity and get DOH and Illinois on the same page, it would be awesome, helpful for our stores. So along these lines, do any of our members have any other questions? Because I want to move to a question dealing with the curfews, and I know Tammy has a couple of questions too. But on masks or reusable bags, do any of our members have any questions on that?
We have several questions in the question box. I think some of them have been answered, but I can go through them really quickly.
Please do.
Before we do that, could I ask one clarifying question that was in the box that we were discussing? And it's for the governor's office in Illinois. And there was a bit of discrepancy there. So it sounds like the governor's office is allowing for some exceptions on the masks if there's a medical condition. And so the question is then, is L&I going to follow the governor's guidance on that or not?
Yes, L&I will follow that guidance.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we need some expansion on that, some clarity on that, because that wasn't clear. And so if we could get more guidance on that, it would be super helpful.
Yes, and Jan, this is Lauren. I will circulate that guidance document with you and point you to that language after the call.
Thank you, Lauren. We appreciate that.
And it looks like there were also a couple of questions that wanted clarification on if an employee either refuses to wear a mask or says it's, has the note or whatever that it's a medical condition, do they lay them off or no?
I think we talked about that in that, they lay them off, they get unemployment insurance, but they can't do the paid medical leave unless the underlying medical condition qualifies. And, you know, that's a good question for ESD too, because we've heard that you're so backlogged on the application for paid medical leave and paid family leave that nobody is really getting qualified for those benefits right now. Is that an accurate statement or rumor?
Well, this is Sonia Charles again. So people are getting qualified. It is taking the department up to 10 weeks to process those applications, but they plan to have that down to a 2-week wait by the end of this month.
Great. Okay. So does that answer the member question? If it didn't, can you just unmute and tell us it's not answered?
And let's
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, this is Brenna Davis with PCC. Thank you so much to the folks that are on the call to answer our questions. If indeed we are following the government guidance and ordinances, then is it true then that we would not have to lay people off and they are not required to wear masks if they have a medical clearance?
Who wants to take that? Lauren?
Well, I'm not sure that I know the answer, but I can follow up after discussing with some of our subject matter experts.
Okay.
Thank you. That would be, I think, good news for us if that was the case.
One of the questions here is, are gaiters, Gaiters, gaiters acceptable or not?
Yeah, this is Pam. Yeah, they are. Really, any cloth thing that you can put on your face is acceptable as a cloth face mask.
Here's a question. Do you have to pass out Table 2 information form on respirators for face coverings?
No. So the cloth face coverings that we're all using right now for the COVID-19 are not considered respiratory protection. So they are not respirators. And so they don't follow underneath any of the respirators.
Rebecca, Mike Latham says he has a question and apparently doesn't know how to unmute or he's, I don't know if he's self-muted.
Let me see if I can find him.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
He didn't tell me what the comment is, but
okay, he should be able to.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Sorry I'm so late getting into this. Question that I have is, I have an employee, and this is about face shields. I have an employee that as a young child was nearly suffocated and died and cannot even put on a swim mask, but she's wearing a face shield because she cannot have a mask against her face and without going into a panic attack. So do I allow her to work or do I just let her go home?
Lauren, I think it's you.
Well, again, I mean, I definitely defer to the folks who are going to be enforcing these requirements in the field, but I can't imagine a world in which our office would say, we want you to tell people to go home instead of finding a way to accommodate their needs. So, you know, in this case, that sounds to me like medical behavioral health reason for accommodation. And I would certainly encourage, you know, seeking some technical assistance from the folks at LNI if you have concerns about how to comply, but it sounds like something that could be worked out.
And is that something that we would require doctor's notes?
Yes. So this Pam can't. Well, likely what we would be doing in a situation where there's a complaint that your people are wearing face shield instead of face masks, or for some reason we were going to look at it and from our enforcement people, we would look to see if you had it's reasonable accommodations. So if it's a doctor's note, that is a reasonable accommodation that you have to your best way figure out how to accommodate that person. And in that aspect, if the doctor said, hey, you guys need to wear face shields instead of the face mask, we would take that as that you guys were in compliance.
Okay, well, hopefully, we can.
So that's a different answer to the same question that I asked 5 minutes ago. You said no face shields regardless, you have to find them to do something else or they have to go home. And now he's asking the same question just with the personal attachment, and you're saying, oh, it's okay, now you can wear a face shield if you have a mask on.
If you have a doctor's note that is a reasonable accommodation, then I believe that we would accept the face shield.
So the answer here is to have your employee get a doctor's note and state that the shield is a reasonable accommodation, and the governor and Illinois and Department of Health are all going to be okay with that, and local government. We hope. Which takes us to Tammy's question about local government. Tammy, you want to ask our panelists?
Yeah, and Lauren, I think you might have seen this question I had sent to the governor's office, which is, do we have somewhere on the web where we're tracking all the guidance and restrictions per county? As they do these different phases, a lot of them are submitting, what they're going to do and what their restrictions are going to be, but we can't seem to find that anywhere in one place for members.
Yeah, thank you, Tammy. And I saw your question. I did not know the answer to that offhand, but it did cause me to I know that we don't have it within the state, but I was wondering if maybe like the Association of Washington Counties or someone like that could help us aggregate some of that information. So I would love to take that question, do a little research, and follow up with you after the call.
Perfect, thank you.
That'd be great. And one of these local government situations that we have, we know that the governor is strongly recommending cloth masks for the public when they're out and about, but he has not required our stores to limit access if a customer comes and doesn't wear a mask, where Jefferson County has now done so, and I can't remember if King County has done so, but it's the same situation that we have said from day one. We're putting our own employees at risk. We know that from experience. If our employees try to stop a customer from coming in or walking around the store and taking their mask off, and that creates a lot of liability for the stores, and we really strongly believe it's up to government, if they're doing a mandate, that they enforce it, and Department of Health and Illinois are welcome to walk through our stores and advise customers, but we cannot take the chance that our employees are going to get hit from angry customers, and it has happened in our stores already. So I just raise that red flag to you that you can require things all day long, but there are limits that our employers are going to set down to protect their employees' health. So I wanted to move to a question about curfews here, because this question came up because we are a 24-hour industry, our warehouses, our convenience stores, and many of our grocery stores. And we have now come up against a situation where we have employees that are assigned night shifts that have to report to work, or they cover go to work. What does an employer tell an employee? Do they have to have an essential worker pass from emergency management, or what is the guidance here?
Who are we talking? Me? What's the path? Question here.
I just think if there's anyone who may be able to answer this on the phone, I just haven't been able to find clear guidance on this.
Yeah, I think Lauren is the most likely. Are you, Lauren?
Well, and you know, I apologize. I maybe didn't quite catch your question. The audio was kind of going in and out for me for a second, so I hate to make you repeat yourself, but unfortunately, I think I need you to.
Yeah. Okay. We are a 24-hour industry, yes. So we have employees that have to come and go during some of these restricted hours that local governments have put on.
Yes. Okay.
You know, so what should our employers instruct our employees to do? How can they go in to work or come home from work?
So you're referring to the curfews?
Yeah.
Put in place. Yeah, this I do not know the answer to that. Again, it's, you know, not a COVID specific incident that was driving the curfews. So I will need to ask around, but I think that's a very, very good question.
I did send the question over to the emergency management earlier, and asked if we needed to have those employees apply for those transportation certificates, but I didn't know the answer either. So that's why.
Well, you know, in the early phases of the stay-home order, you know, we weren't requiring the sort of specific documentation for essential workers, but we were advising folks, like, you know, if you're worried about it, feel free to give your employees a letter, right, that identifies them as essential workers. But I would hate to advise that if the city actually has some formal requirement in place. So let me just check, because I want to make sure that we give you the right advice.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I did try to check with King County because I know most of the cities were in King County, but I never heard back. So yeah, if you can help at all, that would be great.
Yep, I can do that.
So Rebecca, anybody that has their hand up or has a question in the box, please interrupt us staff people so our members can ask their questions. Do you have anything?
There are a couple of hands up. Kevin Storman's put his hand up. I don't know if he still has a question, but Kevin, you can unmute if you want.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of been sort of half answered, I think, in my mind, but it goes back to the whole face shield thing. I have somebody who works in the kitchen, so accommodation is really, really difficult in that space. I mean, she can't get away from other people, you know, 6 feet or more. She has a doctor's note, and she can't wear a face mask or a shield. And so it kind of goes back to that question: do I need to let her go, or is the governor's advice that if they have a doctor's note that there's an exemption? So I think as we were talking through that, one of you were going to check on the answer for that.
Yeah, I believe Lauren was going to do that for you, Kevin.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, I feel like you know, I can provide the guidance from the governor's office, but I would encourage some interpretation L&I, given, you know, the specific circumstances, if you're worried about it from an enforcement standpoint.
Yeah, this is Pam. I'm taking down the question. And then we can get back to you about some specifics on this.
Okay, we'll get back to you, Kevin, with all these answers.
Thank you.
And
Is there
then
another hand?
there's not another hand, but we did want to please pass along that this is creating a very stressful atmosphere for our employees. They are honestly touching their faces with their hands about 10 times more than they were when they weren't wearing a mask. We have 3/4 inch plexiglass to protect the employee and the customer. Droplets are not getting through those. So just a comment, not a question.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, there was one question I've had, and I'm not sure we have the person that could respond, but we have had some reports from employers who is dealing with unemployment insurance. When an employee files for, a person files for unemployment insurance, ESD has to send a letter to all base year employers and advise of that. And unless the employer responds and says, no, that employee quit my place, the employer will be charged in their experience rating for that layoff. We've had some reports that those notices have come just a day or two before the deadline for an employer to respond, or after the deadline. So we're looking for an answer on, and we've not been, I'll tell you, trying to get through ESD and get an answer on anything these days is impossible. So we've not been able to get an answer or any direction to give to our employers that have been placed in that situation. And certainly it makes a huge impact on their rates down the road. So I guess maybe to the governor's office, since you know, it's ESD, if maybe you could get somebody over there that could get us a proper answer out of the unemployment insurance division on this, it'd be great.
And this is Tammy. I will say just before this call, I did get a response back from them. They are allowing extra time. So if an employer does have that notice, send it in and protest it immediately. But it would be good to get some clarity from the governor's office, because right now they weren't able to tell me how much time they're giving. And they do know that they have a huge backlog in getting documents mailed out. But that is important.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Can you do me a favor and forward me the response that you got from ESD?
Yes, definitely.
Great, thank you.
So let's do kind of last call for our guests. They've been fabulous to hang on with us and respond to the best of their ability and commit to follow up, and we appreciate that. Any last questions?
Hi, Jan. This is Heather at Harbor. I don't know that you'll have, or anybody will have, an answer for this. I'm just hoping there's something I can provide back to our employees. But most of all of our employees that we've hired in the 2 months prior to March, so beginning of the year, they still have not gotten their unemployment, and they've been laid off since early March. And everybody else that had worked with us, I know it's a reporting thing, I think. I can only guess that we just recently submitted over their hours. And maybe that's part of the delay. Do you have any insight or anything I can tell these employees that still have not received their benefits going on 2.5 months here? So our employees that have been with us for a long time, they're getting their benefits, but the new people aren't. And they're still on standby. Like, we're gonna hopefully bring them back here in the next 3 weeks.
So I don't know if that was a question for me, but if it is, I will, I'm taking it down and I will follow up with Tammy because I don't know the answer.
Okay. Yeah, just anything. I mean, I just feel like a broken record at this point that I just say, sorry, I don't know, call ESD, call ESD. And everybody's like, I get hung up on when I call. So.
Yeah, that's been a common response is they get hung up on hold, they're on hold for a certain amount of time and then it just goes dead.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just something like that we could, I know that they're trying to provide updates. Like I know they did the delayed payment update, but it seems, you know, and this is in my small window, but of people that are new, that's the common thread, that the ones that aren't getting it. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I would imagine it's a reporting thing. Like we probably just submitted our hours over, you know, quarterly, obviously. Maybe that was part of it. I don't know.
Okay, we'll try to find out if there's any other advice we can give you other than call ESD because that doesn't seem to be working. So
yeah.
Yeah, and one last thing here, Lauren, I think, since we don't have Department of Health, but Department of Health issued phase 2 instructions to us. You know, we live and die by Department of Health even more than Illinois. Since food safety is our #1 goal. We were told we could reopen the salad and soup bars under certain regulations of additional cleaning and monitoring, that type of thing. So we got full instructions on that and issued it out. And then this morning we got told, no, we can't do that. We have to close, if we opened our salad soup bars, we have to close and we can still leave the beverage bars open. So apparently there was some conflict or disagreement in the governor's office with that directive that was sent out earlier by Department of Health. Can you shed any light on that for us?
I do recall that decision being made within the governor's office. So that is correct.
Okay. So we are shut down or need to shut down. Okay. All right. Well, you guys have been fabulous. Tammy, you know how to pick them. Thank you.
I got lucky, and I can't thank you all enough for doing this on short notice. I greatly appreciate it.
Yes, and I apologize for not being able to answer all your questions, but I will follow up after the call to make sure that you folks get some response.
Thanks, Lauren. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. Appreciate it. We have a few more items we're going to cover with our members, but we have no more questions for you, and we know your time is precious. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I think next on, I want to get Mike Latham on because also one of the new requirements of all of you is, of course, having your written procedures of how you're going to accommodate, you know, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 comes out, and we find out what that entails. So you have to have written procedures updated at each phase, and Mike Latham with Town and Country provided the first guidance back a few weeks ago. He updated for phase 2 what I just asked the governor's office about. Mike had updated it and done all of the protocols for the salad and soup bars, and then we got an email today from Department of Health going, well, we take it back. So Mike, I'm turning it over to you. Mike, we have posted your updated procedures for our members if they want to use it as kind of a baseline to develop their own written procedures. So when Illinois or Department of Health or whoever comes in, they've got something in writing. You want to take it over here for a few minutes and
Sure.
make it.
Well, I'll make it very, very short and simple. One of the requirements from the governor's office is that there will be a plan in place as every retailer goes back through the different phases of reopening. So what we have provided for you, because we're all in this together, is the documents that our team, Elvira, who is on the call with us, as well as some of our other corporate people, we've all set and worked on developing the what ifs in literally every scenario possible, from if it's a test positive case to interactions of if someone doesn't want to come to work if they're not feeling comfortable. We tried to put every possibility into this thing as it was developed. And you have it, and we're sharing it with you. So really all you have to do is just change your own name to it. I think the name is already pulled off the document that you have online, but use it to whatever extent you want to for your organization. Certainly you may not want to do everything that we have done or may not need to, but we really went in depth to create this document, not to overwhelm anyone, but to really have a full plan in place. So feel free to use it. And if you do have someone come in, you will need to be able to present that you do have a plan. And especially with the health departments, as they're going to come in and as you go into each of the individual phases, some of the larger counties are really going to be asking for, I want to see your plan. I want to know what you're doing and how you're going to reintroduce certain things. Hopefully this document will have enough to suffice for every county that's out there. So use it, enjoy it.
And Mike, you've been wonderful, and Town and Country been so very generous with the resources. Thanks to you and to Bill and Elvira too, and thanks to the whole team. Let's see, I'm gonna jump over. Melissa's got a couple announcements for us. Melissa from our staff, Melissa Burgess is our communications and events director.
Yeah, so I just wanted to update folks. Initially, there was a request to sort of create some sort of a discussion community for our members. So we've been testing out a listserv service, and some folks have been on that. And so as soon as we get approval for that, I'll be sending out an email for our members to sign up. And so that'll create that sort of ability to have conversations directly with members when we're not on these calls. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that we will be hosting an e-commerce in the retail industry webinar on June 17th at 2 p.m. and an email will go out shortly for sign up on that. And that's it.
And that's a direct request from one of our members who didn't have e-commerce before, and you've all been kind of forced into it. And some of our smaller stores are feeling frustrated and looking for resources. So Melissa jumped right on it and is bringing it right to you on a webinar. Are there any questions for any of our staff here? Questions or comments?
There is a question about where to find that resource from Mike Latham on our website.
Okay, Melissa, did you get it posted here?
Yep, so it's currently under new this week, and it's the second from the bottom. I believe it says COVID-19 response plan updated. So that's going to be the newest one. And I'll be leaving that up for a while so that it's easy for folks to find.
Any other questions?
Not in the box.
You got all of our staff here. All you have to do is unmute yourself and.
Hi, this is Brenna with PCC. Just a really quick question. So the governor's team emailed you this morning and said that the Department of Health emailed and said they made a mistake about opening up self-service. When do they plan to issue a revised guidance? Do we know, or?
Well, it was in a guidance that they sent that, and let's see, did we get it up yet, Melissa? I'm looking on you today.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Can you restate the question?
Yeah, the health department issued phase 2 guidance that's saying that we could reopen the hot bar and the salad bar. And then it sounds like they wrote an email today and reneged on it. Do we know if they're going to issue a revised guidance saying that we can't open the hot bar or the salad bar, or has that already been done this morning? I guess is my question.
Yeah, it is done, but my question is, did I give it to you, Melissa, for posting?
I don't think so.
Okay, I will send it over this afternoon after we hang up. And Melissa's just terrific. She gets these things posted immediately.
Okay, thanks, Jan. I thought you were asking me what my question was. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I did. I was. But that was Melissa asking you. So what they did is they just revised their document for dining in, and you'll see a significant change there. So, but I will get that over to Melissa. I'm sorry, I thought I already had. We will do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jan, just I don't want to belabor this point, but we bounced around so much that I just want to clarify, I guess. So we're looking for an answer back from, I guess, the governor's office, or I'm not sure where it would come from, to where we can say everybody's on the same page between L&I, the governor's office, and the health department on the use of face shields if there's a medical reason for it. And that's supposed to be coming from whoever was on the call there. Is that?
If you could see my face right now, Don, I have quite the smirk on it. If you think you've been reeling the past hour, you can imagine what we've been going through the past several days. It's nuts. It's crazy and it's unacceptable, but you know, it is what it is. It's government. So we would hope that, and when we get the written response, what we'll have to do if we don't see a directive to both L&I and DOH, we'll have to send what the governor's office says to L&I and to DOH and state, can we confirm that this is also your direction? At this point, that's all we can do, Don.
Okay. And then the other question that sort of fits into that is the whole issue of the plexiglass that you've got up and the check stands and all that. What does that allow us or not allow us to do? If that's supposed to be a barrier, then it seems like it would preclude us doing something. Otherwise, I don't understand the point of even having the plexiglass. But
well, at this point, there is no point in having the plexiglass with the way they've changed it. But I think that you all made some good points to them today. So we'll see if we get any revision in that. But
okay.
They have made clear to us that those plexiglass barriers aren't acceptable for a replacement for masks. I mean, absolute. So hopefully they'll change it.
Okay.
Hey, Jan, this is Melissa. Just regarding that document that the gal was mentioning, I'm not sure if this is the correct one, but Rebecca, under New This Week, it says it's the WA DOH Phase 2 Food Establishment Operations Updated. I'm not sure if that's the document that you're referring to, Jan.
That is the document I'm referring to. Go down to self-serve. There's a section on self-serve. Keep going. Oh, right there. Yep. See how they changed it? Now it says close self-serve salad bars and buffets. So the document we had a week and a half ago said open salad bars and buffets with, you know, some guidance. But now they've changed it. So there it is on our website, Brenna.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's so frustrating.
I know.
I have a quick one. Another one that keeps is as clear as mud, is the occupancy. The thing that I sent you, Jan, the other day, it said that grocery stores were exempt from that. And then I still see other things where it says they want us at 30%. So which is it?
Our store floor, our customer area is subject to 30% in phase 2. It is 50% occupancy if you have a seating area for your deli. What you are not subject to, that created a lot of confusion this past week, is as they are allowing the counties to open up additional retail, the additional retail, other than what was designated in the 30%, is subject to 15%. And that's where some questions came in from our members. Oh my God, are we subject to the 15%? No, you're not, but you are subject to the 30% if you're in phase 2. Phase 3, if you're in a county that moves to phase 3, is 50%. But we don't see anybody going there till probably around June 21st.
Okay, so it is still 30 then when we hit phase 2.
Yeah, except for your eating deli area.
Okay.
Yep.
Jan, have you received the grocery specific process to open up delis and seating for grocery?
No, not yet. In fact, I was wishing I would have had time to call her. She yesterday said she thought she was going to have it to us yesterday. I think it was because of this change with closing down the salad bars and the days that she backtracked to let this come out before she gave us our directive on our grocery store deli. So I will follow up with her now that they've released this new dining in directive. Keep your eye open every day on the new today on this website, because everything gets posted there. And in fact, when we get the answers back from the governor's office or Illinois, any of them will be posting it in that section too on our website. So we don't want to bombard you with a bunch of emails. So it's easiest for us to do that for you. And you can access it when it's a good time for you. Again, I want to thank all of our staff. They're doing a great job trying to stay above this, all of this. It's not easy. I'm seeing a question, I think, in the question bar. I think it may be Dave Willis about poly bars. So if you're asking if we can do self-serve olive bars, we can do absolutely no self-serve except beverages, fountain drinks. So can't do the donut areas, can't do convenience store hot dogs like they said we could, can't do any of that. Now we're shutting that down again. So thank you all to the staff.
I have one quick thing before we jump off. This is Tammy. So PPE and access to that information, we are trying to gather all the information and just add it to our website. So instead of going to FEMA because they've stopped theirs, we are now trying to put it on our website. And our member, like Heritage Distilling, has hand sanitizer. So we're putting all those resources on our site for you. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, we had some polling questions around some of the questions we had today for government, but I think we'll hold those. Rebecca's got them all ready to go and do it next week because the information will still be usable. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to the staff and talking.
Hey, Jan.
Oh, yeah.
Jan, sorry. Let me just make one quick interruption, if I may. Sorry.
Yep.
In the document that I gave you, under phase 2, because there's still uncertainty over the bulk departments, because gravity fed we have been allowed to do all along, and we haven't gotten that distinction yet. So I just want everyone to know that it implies in our phase 2 plan that gravity flow bulk is okay, but spoon and tong type bulk bins are not. So I just wanted that to be out there in case anyone is misinterpreting that the state is going to allow or not allow. I just didn't want to take it out until there was final answers on it.
Oh, that's so excellent, Mike, because that was allowed in the document 10 days ago. They haven't addressed it yet on the revised, so it is a question we've sent over to Department of Health, and thanks for that clarification, Mike, because it's really important. So, thanks. Okay. Don't forget, you've got our emails if you have more questions, and we'll talk with y'all next Tuesday. Thank you, Tammy, for your hard work getting our expert panels together.